With over 20 years of innovation and 7 million customers globally, Intuit QuickBooks knows a thing or two about financial technology. We also know what it's like doing the books the hard way. The hours you spend entering client data. It's easy to make mistakes and hard to find those mistakes when you realize the numbers are off. Chasing clients for their latest statements. Why is it so hard? Trawling emails. Long emails sent on different days with different attachments. It's so disjointed and inefficient. But those times, put them behind you, because the future is here. Introducing QuickBooks Online Accountant. Your life and business is about to get easier and a lot less stressful. As a bookkeeper or accountant, your account is free. All your clients' books are kept behind one secure login. And because it's in the cloud, you can sign in and work on your clients' books from anywhere in the world. With password-protected login, multi-factor authentication, firewall-protected servers, and state-of-the-art encryption technology, we'll keep your data private and protected for your peace of mind. As an accountant or bookkeeper, you'll get access to discounted QuickBooks Online files for your small business clients. Choose to pass the bill to your client or be charged yourself and include it in your fees. Your dashboard is connected to their account, so they can upload receipts with their phone and you'll be able to see everything. No more chasing. Plus, if they sync their bank account, you can see what they're spending and earning in real time, not weeks or months later, so you can share your timely and relevant advice. You'll love being able to run reports in minutes with a range of preset or custom professional reports. And there's a selection of customized accounting tools and AI to help you do everything you do, but faster. Access unlimited training and education to help you get started and become a master. Plus, if you ever get stuck, there's award-winning customer support. As you get the hang of using it and start saving hours of time, you'll get badges and awards you can put on your email signature, website, and LinkedIn to show off your increasing status and professional expertise. You'll join a Facebook community of other people like you with similar experiences. But best of all, helping your clients is about to become a whole lot easier. Introducing QuickBooks Online Accountant. The future is here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today. I'm very excited to have everyone here. If you guys did manage to make it to the first session earlier today, I'm very glad to see you guys back. And I'm really excited for our session today. It's going to be fun, jam-packed with a lot of information. So keep an eye out for those little key features. Just going to... So I'm your host, Nadine Augustine. I'm going to be taking you through the certification today. I'm a QuickBooks advisor. I'm part of the Intuit Trainer Writer Network. I'm the co-founder of Ecom Accountants, which is an accounting firm based in South Africa. And I do see we have some South African visitors joining us today. And I'm also a registered business accountant. So I really do help business owners. I help accountants get on their cloud path. And obviously my passion is really around training. So I'm really excited about this session. So we've got some additional resources for you. If you'd like to go ahead, you've got your QuickBooks accounting training portal. You've got Firm of the Future, which is an amazing blog. And then you've got the Intuit Marketing Hub, which is really great to use to get you on your marketing journey. So our session is in 2 sessions, one in now, and we're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back for session 2. So we're going to run through 4 modules each. You can see our first module is all around the features, creating your company and dashboard. If you look at module 2, it's around your account and settings. Your module 3 is managing your users, multi-currency, and your chart of accounts. And then we've got your module 4, which is around your inventory management. These are going to be in your second part, which I'll go through in the next session. So before we get started, I just want to welcome you to QuickBooks. And by the end of the session, you're going to understand Intuit's journey into the cloud accounting marketplace. You're going to recognize where QuickBooks Online sits in the Intuit product suite, and you're going to learn how QuickBooks Online Accountant works with apps and ecosystems. So this is your QuickBooks Online family. So you can see you have 3 different subscriptions. You've got your Simple Start, you've got your Essentials, and then you've got your Plus. So you can see your Simple Start's really for guys that are starting out. And then when you go into your Plus version, you've got advanced reporting and profitability tracking and much more. So it's really important to see which software is going to suit your client the best. But we are going to look at this a little bit more in detail. Then we've got our app ecosystem. So QuickBooks Online really connects with several different applications or add-ons, and you need to learn which app is going to bring that additional functionality to your client. So you don't always have to add an app on, it's not necessary, but there are certain industries that do require an add-on. And if you do go into your QuickBooks Online Accountant version, you're going to see a whole app section for you to go in and fiddle around and see what apps there are to offer. So getting your free account is very important. I think that's your first step before we start our journey today. So if you'd go to the link above, and it might be in the chat as well, it's very important to get your free account. So I will show you the sign up process when I go into the short demo. But if you can, in the meantime, go to this link and sign up for your free accountant version. So remember, it is free for you. You are only going to pay for your client subscriptions, or you can make the client pay for them. So your account is completely free. So signing up is very simple. Once you've clicked on that link, you're either going to say you're new to QuickBooks and you're going to sign up by putting in your email address, your first name, your last name, your phone number, and your password. If you already have an Intuit account, you're just going to simply go to sign in and you're going to put in your credentials there. So now we're going to look at navigating the QuickBooks Online Accountant version. And by the end of this, you're going to be able to manage all your clients and your practice in one place. You're going to recognize the main features of QuickBooks Online Accountant and how to access client QuickBooks Online account and the accountant tools. And you're going to understand how to navigate to the different client companies. So this is a quick snapshot of your client's overview screen on your accountant dashboard. So you're going to get a view of all your different clients. If you're going to do your books review, who was the lead, and any actions that you want to take on that client. So there is a little gear icon there. You're going to see with QuickBooks Online, we do speak of the gear icon quite a lot. It has a lot of the settings in it. And you're going to be able to switch on and off features that you'd like to see. If we look more on exploring the QuickBooks Online Accountant dashboard, you've got your number 1, I'm going to start there, and that is your team. So that is where you're going to load all of your staff, and this is also where you would see if your staff have been certified. Number 2 is an overview of your books. So what's nice with QuickBooks Online Accountant is that you get a software, I think it's the Plus version, that you get to use for your own firm, and that's really great. If we look at number 3, that is where you've got your overview and your bookkeeping. So we're currently on the overview tab, but if you switch and toggle over to the bookkeeping, you will see other features relating to your different clients. 4 is a search functionality. So you will always have that button. You can either search an invoice number, an amount. There are advanced search features as well. So that is a great tool to use. Number 5 is everything around your practice. So here you can see you've got your client, you've got your team, you've got your training center. So this is very important because you'll do all your certification training here. You've got your work tab, which is a little practice management software in your software. And then you've got that apps tab that I also mentioned. And then lastly, we've got a number 6, which is your gear icon. And that is where all of your settings are presented. So you're going to be able to see your subscriptions there, change any account settings, but we will go into this a little bit more detailed. So again, this is your practice, just showing you what's inside. These are your books, so you can see everything that you have available to you. This is the client switcher. So if you don't feel comfortable going through the whole client list, you can go to the client switcher and search for your client and select him or her through there. This is the search functionality, so you can search recent transactions or you can do an advanced search. We've got the new tab. So the new tab is currently going to be sitting in your client's books or in your books. And it's just a little button to give you ease of access for your day-to-day transactions. And this is the gear feature I did mention. You see you've got your settings, your lists, your tools, and anything around your company. And we are now back on the client list. So you're just going to get a good idea of how everything looks. So if we do select a client, you can actually see if this client has a QuickBooks Online account or if they're just a client you added to manage their work processes. So on this client, you can see their physical address, you can email them, you can call them, you can set up notes. So this is a really great place to actually manage your CRM and let's say sharing notes with your team on what's important. You can star certain things. So it's a really great tool to use to manage your practice. To add a client is also extremely straightforward. You're going to click on the green Add Client button. What's nice with QuickBooks Online is it's always going to guide you with a green button. A green is normally the thing you follow if you want to do something. And now we're going to go into our actual certification. So before I do that, I just want to show you a little bit around the accountant dashboard and how to sign up. And then we're going to get straight into the actual certification. Just bear with me as I share my screen. Okay. So if you come to the QuickBooks Accountant, the Global Accountant software screen, you're going to toggle into your country. And that's very important. So once you choose a country, I'm just going to, let's say, choose Kenya. It will then show me this little button that says free sign up for accountants. Once you click on that button, it's going to show you the screen, which is your email, your first name, your last name, your mobile number, and your password. If you do already have an account, you're just simply going to sign in. So I'm going to sign in quickly, just so I can show you the sign up process, because I've already got an account. And it's now taken me into my QuickBooks Online Accountant version. So you can see the tab has changed a little bit. But you can go back to the new menu. Things are always changing in QuickBooks. And when you go to your training button, this is where you're going to find your certification. So very easy, very straightforward. And you're going to go to the QuickBooks Online Accountant certification, and you're going to go here to take the exam. So very simple, very straightforward. This will then take you to the exam and you'll be able to proceed from there. I will show you a little bit more on how to get into the exam and what to answer just before our first break. To share a slide again. Okay. So if everybody's ready, we are now going to be starting with the exam preparation, and we're going to be starting with creating a company. Okay, so as mentioned before, you've got your different subscription levels. So we've got your simple start, we've got your essentials, and we've got your plus. So on simple start, it's all about starting your business. So you get to track income and expenses. You can send custom invoices and quotes, and this is all electronic. You can connect your bank, so meaning that you can have a bank feed or a CSV a statement loaded. You can track your VAT or your sales tax. And it is for one user plus your accountant. So this is really if you're getting started. Then if we look onto essentials, this is all about running your business. So it has everything that Simple Start has to offer, but it also has insights and reporting. You can manage employees. There's also multi-currency, and it is for 3 users and your accountant. Then we've got our plus version. So this is the most fancy version, and it's everything that Essentials has, but it also has recurring transactions. You can also track inventory. You can track projects and locations. You can manage your budgets, and it's for 5 users plus your accountant. So this is also great to use when you're growing your business and you need to put budgets in. You need to track inventory. So this is the right subscription for you to use. So just remember that only the plus version has access to class tracking, budgeting, and inventory. So the other Simple Start and Essentials does not have that. And if you are mainly looking at it for entering and tracking and paying bills, then you can use Essentials and Plus, but Simple Start is not going to have that feature. So this is just getting into an account. So if you have a client that needs to sign up on their own and then add you on as an accountant, they can just do that by signing up for an account. If you're doing for an accountant, you know the link. And again, please use Google Chrome and Firefox to log in, and they are the best versions or the best browsers to use to access QuickBooks Online. So opening up a new QuickBooks company is very straightforward. It's going to ask you the name of the company and how long has the company been in business for. This is simply just statistics purposes, and obviously the legal name of the business is important. It's also going to ask you a little message saying, I've been using QuickBooks Desktop and want to bring in my data that way. So if you have clients that are on desktop and you want to move them forward, you can use that little button. It's also going to then ask you what you would like to do in QuickBooks. So do you want to send and track invoices? You want to manage your inventory? So it's really going to guide you with what features it needs to unlock. Now we're going to look at the dashboard. So just remember now with the certification, we're going to be working on the global online version. So we're not going to be working in the accountant's version. That was just a little sneak peek at the beginning on your navigation for it. But the actual certification is based around the global online version. So now we're going to have a look at the dashboard. So you can see the dashboard is pretty straightforward. You've got your Getting Things Done button and your Business Overview. So your Getting Things Done are just simple shortcuts. Let's say adding a customer, adding estimates, tracking time. So these are just quick links for you to access. Then if we go to the business overview, this is where you can see your profit and loss, your bank accounts, any unpaid invoices, what your sales, and you can toggle these to whatever date range suits you. And just remember that if you have a client that is specifically looking for a certain feature that QuickBooks Online doesn't have, or they are in an industry that requires specific reporting, that there is a whole lot of apps that can integrate. So head over to the app screen and have a look at what apps are there to offer. Also, just to mention on the search functionality again, if your client wants to find an expense or an invoice and you know, let's say only the amount, but you can't remember the date or the supplier or the customer, the best way to do this is to go to the magnifying glass. It's at the top right, and you're going to search that amount, and it's going to show you all possible options for that amount, and you're going to be able to find that transaction very quick and very easy. Now we're going to be looking at day-to-day transactions. So how do you transact on a day-to-day basis? So your new button is going to be your best friend. You can actually access many of these features in a wide variety of ways, but the new button is just quick and easy. So you've got them categorized under customers, suppliers, employees, and other. Under customers, obviously, you can see you've got estimates, you've got sales receipts, you've got invoices, suppliers, you've got bills, payables, purchase orders, you've even got statements and journal entries. So this is a great way to just find your day-to-day transactions. And again, I do apologize for going so quickly. It's just that we do have a very quick session that I do want to cover everything in to not bore you. So I hope that if you do have any questions, please post them in the questions and answer section, and we will help you as much as we can. Now we're going to be looking at navigating your client's QuickBooks Online. So we're going to start with accountant settings. So to get to accountant settings, you're going to go to the gear icon and you're going to select accountant settings. So you can also see here that in the gear icon, you do have a lot of different features that you can access. So you can, for example, customize your invoice layout. You can put your budgeting in. You can look at your audit log. This is also where you can switch your company. If you are an accountant, let's say, of many different practices, you can switch your practices there. You've got your custom fields, your importing data. So there is a lot of information or features on this screen. But if we look at our accountant settings screen, it's very straightforward. They are grouped in different categories. So we've got your company, we've got your billing and subscription, we've got your sales, your expenses, your time, and your advanced. So if you look in your company settings, it's all related to the company. So you've got your company name, which can be different to your legal name. Let's say you have a trading name. Then you've got your business ID. So this is going to be your company registration number or your business's identification number, anything on those lines. You also have the option of putting in your logo. In company type, you're going to choose your type of tax form and your client's industry. On contact info, you're going to choose the company email, and if there is a different customer-facing email, you can put that in. You've got a company phone number as well as a website. Address is also very similar. You've got your company address, and then you've got a customer-facing address if that is different, and then you also have a legal address if that is different to the other two. Under sales, we've got your customized look and feel of your invoices. We've got your sales form content. So this is everything that you want to show in the sales form. So let's say we've got your preferred invoice terms, which can be 30 days or 60 days. We've got your preferred delivery method. Here you can switch your shipping on or off. You've got access to custom fields, custom transaction numbers. You can switch on discounts or deposits. You've also got your product and service section where you can toggle on or off different features. You've got progress invoicing, which is a really cool feature, unfortunately only available on Plus, but this is where you can create partial invoices from a single estimate. So this can work well for certain industries, like let's say a construction industry. And then you also have your default messages. If we look at your expenses, we've got your bills and expenses. So this is if you want to track expenses and items by customer, for example, or you want to make your expenses and items billable. There are a lot of features here as well. And this is where you would toggle on or off your purchase orders. So if you need to use purchase orders, you're going to have to come and toggle this feature on. Then we've also got your time settings, so your first day of the week, and if you want to show service fields in your timesheets. Then we've got your advanced setting. So the advanced setting is very important because it really leads towards how your reporting is going to happen. So it's going to ask you for the first month of your financial year, that's where it starts, and the first month of your tax year if that is different to your financial year. It's going to ask you your accounting method, whether you want accrual or cash. You also have the option to close the books. So what is close the books? Let's say you have a client that does their books, you do year-end journals, you close the books, and you don't want the client to go and touch anything in that prior period. All you're going to do is go and close the books, put a password on, and your client will not be able to touch or make any adjustments to that previous period. And this is really great if you are, let's say, doing a trial balance to financials, you don't want anything to change in the previous year, or if you have a client that is a little bit trigger happy and likes to fiddle where they shouldn't be, this is also a great feature to use. And then you also have your default tax rate, so you can choose whether it's out of scope, exclusive of tax, or inclusive. Just remember when you're working in each section that it's very important to save. Save as you go, and then as soon as you're completely done, you're going to click on the Done button at the end. So again, here it's going to ask you for a tax form. It's going to ask you if you want to count numbers on your chart of accounts, and if you want to track classes or location. So just remember with QuickBooks is you can track them separately. So your locations can be purely branch locations, and then you can actually filter more in and track by class as well. And then we're going to be looking at your managing of your users. So this is also a really important step because there are different permissions for different types of users. So you don't want to give your client all the access, or you don't want to give their admin clerk, for example, all the access. So this is where we're going to be showing that. Excuse me. So if we look at managing user permissions, you've got 4 different types of users. You've got a time tracking user only, which is a special version of QuickBooks Online that only has timesheets. So just remember that this type of user does not count towards your user count at all, as well as the reports only user. So you can have as many of these users without affecting your user count. So your report-only user is a user that also logs into a special version of QuickBooks Online, and it also gives them access to almost all of the reports. You've got your company administrator, so they have access to all areas of QuickBooks Online, including settings and full access rights to all services. And you also have a standard user. So with the standard user, you can actually control which area of QuickBooks this user needs access to. So if you only want to give them access to, let's say, customers, you can do that, or you can only give them access to suppliers. So the choice is yours. So to add a user, it's very straightforward. You're going to go to the gear icon again at the top right, and you're going to click on Manage Users. And again, it's going to lead you with a green button to say Add a User. So in this scenario, we're going to choose a standard user, but you can see the different options, your company admin, your reports only, and your time tracking. If we choose our standard user, it's going to ask you how much of access do you want this user to have. you're going to say all, none, or limited to either customers or suppliers or both. When you do select on customers, for example, it's going to show you what they can do and what they can't do. And the same goes with suppliers. Once you've chosen what type of access they're going to have, it's then going to ask you, do you want this user to be able to add or remove users? Do you want them to edit company info? And do you want them to manage your subscription? So you also have a little bit of choices there as well. So that is your managing users. I think it's a very great tool to use, especially to manage who does what. But just remember, you do have that audit trail to always check what they have done. And now we're going to be looking at multi-currency. So multi-currency does have to be switched on. This is if your client provides services to other clients that pay in a different currency to your home currency. So in this example, you can see we're using the Philippine peso, and multi-currency is off. So your home currency is the Philippine peso, so you transact purely in that currency. But if you were now to transact with a client that pays you in US dollars, for example, you would need to go and switch multi-currency on. And you would do this in the advanced features or the advanced settings under your account and settings. So as you can see, we'd go to account and settings. And then you're going to toggle on multi-currency. So it's going to give you a lovely little message, and it's going to say multi-currency may be right for you if you have financial transactions in more than one currency. Once you turn on multi-currency, you cannot turn it off. You cannot change your home currency. There's going to be extra fields, columns, and more that are going to be added to your QuickBooks, and there are some features that may no longer be available. So you again need to check and just say, I understand that I cannot undo multi-currency, because once it goes on, it cannot go back off. Once it is on, you now have the ability to manage your currencies, and you're going to do that by clicking on the Manage Currencies button. Here, you're going to be able to add a currency. So what's nice is QuickBooks Online will automatically pull in the spot rate or the exchange rate at a certain time every single day. So you're always going to have the correct exchange rate when you're working on days. But if you do have a fixed rate with a certain currency or with a certain client, you can actually go and add the currency in and edit your exchange rate to your specific rate that has been given. So it does give you that flexibility as well. So you can add as many different currencies as you wish. So it gives you that flexibility to really work with as many currencies and clients that you need to. So you can see here, we got the Australian dollar, the date it was updated, and you have that option to edit the currency exchange rate if necessary. Now we're going to be looking at your chart of accounts. So this is also another very important setup in your client's files. So this is extremely important when you're doing your onboarding and your setup for your client. So you can see that with our chart of accounts, we've got 5 different options. We've got our assets, we've got our liabilities, we've got our equity, our income, and our expenses. So it's broken down in balance sheet and income statement. So your assets, as usual, is everything around assets, your bank account, your inventory, your equipment. Then we've got your liabilities, which is stuff like your sales tax payable, any loans, equities, obviously around owner invested funds and your retained earnings or losses. Incomes is obviously any revenue you generate, and your expenses is everything around the expense you use to run the business. So QuickBooks Online also has product and services. So you use product and services when you need to invoice, but these product and services are actually linked to your chart of accounts, and this is how exactly they are linked. So if you've got a product and service item, and it is, let's say, an inventory item that you physically buy and sell, this product and service item will have an income account as well as an expense account. So on the income account, it's going to be linked to when you physically sell the item. It's going to go to the credit on the income account on your income statement. And you're going to use these on your sales receipts and your invoices. On your expense account, so this is the debit, you're going to use this product and service on bills or any checks or expenses. So product and service is very important because it links to all your invoicing types of transactions. But it needs to be linked to the correct chart of account in your income statement and your balance sheet. So we have a question on why would clients need a customized chart of accounts? What's the reason? So there are a few. You could have different industries that need specific types of chart of account layouts. So a real estate chart of account would look completely different to a product-based company. Could also be your company structure. So a non-profit would have a complete different chart of account to, let's say, a corporation. And it could be also for different types of workflows. So if you have a job costing type of business or you've got a point of sale, all those chart of accounts will look different than each other. And it is so important to have that little meeting with your client beforehand to see what they want out of the reporting so that you can fully customize their chart of accounts for them. So just remember that with the goal of a chart of account, your data must be accurate, complete, and meaningful, and reports must be able to be generated to provide insight into their business performance. Because what is the need for a chart of account if it's not for this? Your end goal is to provide your client with enough information for them to make key business decisions. So if we look at ways to customize your chart of accounts, you do have a few. So as well as adding accounts, you can also edit default accounts, but you can only edit them, the names of these default accounts. You can add account numbers. You can merge any duplicate accounts, which is a great tool. You can also make any unused or redundant accounts inactive. Just remember that you can't delete any accounts. And there are many firms that use a standard chart of account across all their clients. But for us in our firm, we have set up a few different layouts of chart of accounts based on industry. So then we use those. So it is still a much easier process than customizing from scratch for every client. But just remember that they can be tweaked once you have a standard layout. So if we look at editing accounts, right? You're going to go to your accounting setting and you're going to go to chart of accounts. On your chart of account, you're going to find the account you want to edit. You're going to click on the drop down and say edit. And from there, you can see that that first block is fully editable. You can change the tax code, you can make it a sub account, you can change the account type and the name and the detail type. So it gives you full flexibility. And once you're done, all you're going to do is save and close. Just remember, if you are working with a standard chart of account, what you might want to do is go and import your chart of account. And you're going to do that by going to your gear icon and selecting import data and choosing chart of accounts. If you want, let's say, your client wants to not see the QuickBooks balance and the tax rate for these chart of accounts. They want to see a much more simplified version. In your chart of accounts screen, you're going to go to the gear icon and you're going to select which rows and columns you want to show and which ones you don't. So it's fully flexible and fully customizable for your client's experience. Now, if we look at merging accounts and making accounts inactive, this is also a very common thing that happens in practice, but we don't always know how to handle it. So a cluttered chart of account confuses clients and makes reporting much less effective. So If you want to make an account inactive, you generally do so if it's not relevant to the client's business. It has been closed and the balance is zero, so you're not going to use that account anymore, or it's just no longer needed. You're going to merge an account when two accounts serve the same categorical purpose. So my favorite example is always bank charges and bank fees. They are both the completely same account, but maybe someone just created them twice with different names. So it could also be duplicates where there's misspelling. So one was created just spelled incorrectly. It does happen, but just know that you do have the ability to merge them. But do know that merging is not reversible, so it's permanent and cannot be undone. So this is very important when you're choosing to actually merge your accounts, that you do so after taking quite a lot of consideration into it. So how do you merge an account? You're going to find your two transactions. So again, you can see my example of bank charges and bank fees. You're going to edit the account name. So you're going to edit the incorrect one, to reflect the correct one's name. So if I'm happy with bank charges, what you're going to do is you're going to come and copy bank charges. So it's completely exactly the same as the correct one. You're going to go to bank fees and you're going to paste over it with what you've copied so that the names of the two are exactly the same. So you should now have two bank charges. Once you save and close, it's going to give you this little pop-up that says that name is already being used. Would you like to merge the two? And of course, your answer is going to be yes. And just like that, you can see bank fees have now been deleted and there is only bank charges. And your bank charges is now going to have all of your transactions from bank fees merged with bank charges. And just remember that you can also do this with customers and suppliers, because we do know that we sometimes go and add a customer twice with a different name or misspelled. So that is also a possibility. So to make an account inactive is also pretty straightforward. You're going to click on the drop down on your account that you choose, and you're going to say make inactive. It's going to ask you, are you sure? And you're going to say yes. And then again, it's going to show that this account was deleted. Just know that it's not physically deleted, it's just inactive. And if you ever do want to use this account again, all you have to do is click on the make active button. Sub-accounts is something that's also used very often. So if we look at your sub-accounts, this is where you can create multiple sub-accounts to a parent. And the example that I always use here is motor vehicle expenses. So under motor vehicle expenses, you generally have your petrol or your gas. You've got, let's say, parking fees, you've got insurance, you've got any licensing and repairs and maintenance on those vehicles. So this is where you go and create those sub-accounts all separately. So you'd go create your parking, your insurance, your repairs and maintenance, and you would go and link it and say it as a sub-account to your parent account, which is going to be your motor vehicle expenses account. So what you first need to do is create that parent. And then you create the sub-accounts under it, and you're going to just tick that it is a sub-account and link it to your parent account. So this is great for reporting. I use it so much in practice because it really gives you a drop-down, so a detailed layout, or you can summarize it into one amount. So really great for reporting. And now we're just going to end off with product and services before we go into our break. So there are 4 types of product and services. So we've got your inventory, we've got non-inventory, we've got services, and we've got a bundle. So your inventory are really items that you buy and sell and track quantities of. Your non-inventories are products you buy and sell but can't track quantities of. So let's say nuts and bolts. Then you've got your service items. So this is, let's say you're providing a landscaping service or even a tax preparation service. And then we've got your bundle. So your bundle is everything, let's say you're selling a physical item with a service related with it, or many different items together. So this is what you would use. Just remember that there are certain settings for your product and service. So you can use product and services to make it easy for clients to fill out their forms. It handles the debits and credits behind the scenes, so that's also really important. You can track inventory purchased, sold, and quantities on hand, and you can track materials and supplies purchased and sold by your client. So product and services play a huge role in QuickBooks Online. And here you can see what can be toggled on and off regarding product and services. Then we're going to look at how to add a new product and service. So if you go to your sales center and you go to product and services, you're going to see the new button. So that new button is going to link you then to what type of product and service you want to add. Just remember that you can also import these. So if you click on the drop down, it's going to say import, but you can also go to import data and you would be able to find that importing of your product and services there. So just remember, once you've clicked on your item, so here we're going to say it's a service item, you're going to be able to put the name in. So that's going to be what the name of the service is called. You can also make it a sub-product or service if you want. You can put in the description that's going to reflect on the sales forms. You're going to put in your rate or your price, and you're going to link it to that income account. So that is what's important. So let's say you sell things, but you also provide services. It would be very important to create two chart of accounts for the two different income streams so that your product and services can be linked to the correct income account. And then you're obviously going to choose your sales tax or your VAT categories. So that is whenever you're invoicing, that will immediately populate on its own. And you're going to say whether the sales price is exclusive of VAT or inclusive. So this is where you'd go to import your lists. So these are everything that you can import on QuickBooks Online. So you've got your bank data, you've got your customers, you've got suppliers, chart of accounts, product and services, and invoices and bills. So it really gives you great flexibility on what you want to import. So you can import also, as mentioned, by going to the sales center, product and services, and then clicking on the drop down at new and saying import. So we have about 10 minutes, I think, before our break. And I just want to show you a quick demo of everything we've covered in the beginning. Just give me a second as I share my screen. Okay, so I'm still on my training screen now, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into the demo account. So if you ever want to work in the demo account, all you're going to do is say the gear icon and go to sample company. Just remember that your sample company is in the US version, so it does have features that we don't necessarily have in our global version, but you would be able to get the feel and idea of what you're going to be doing. Okay, so here you can see we're starting with getting things done and your business overview. Here you've got all your different centers you can access. You've got your banking, you've got your sales center, you've got your cash flow, your expenses, and your reports, taxes, and accounting version. So if we go to our accountant settings, you can see that we're going to be able to see all our different types of settings. So we've got our company settings here, your company name, legal name, your tax form, your email address, and your address. If we go to sales, you can see here that we've got your customized look and feel. You've got your preferred sales content forms. You've got your product and services, your progress invoicing, your default messages, and you can switch your aging on your statements. Then if we go to expenses, here you can see we've got your bills and expenses. So this is everything that you can switch on and toggle on your bills and expenses. Here you would switch on your purchase orders on or off. If we go to advanced, this is where you're going to see the first month of your fiscal year or your financial year, and then it's going to ask you to choose for your tax year, your accrual method, and then you've got your books. Here you can put on your account numbers or your discount codes. You can track your classes and locations. There are some automations. Here's your project section, and you've got your multi-currency. So if I switch this multi-currency on, it's going to tell me I can't undo it. Then once it refreshes and it does go back on, I'm going to be able to access that Manage Currencies button. It's still refreshing. See, it didn't toggle. Let me just toggle it on again. And now it is on. I'm going to go to Manage Currencies. And this is where you can add your different currencies. So very straightforward, you're going to add currency, choose the currency you want to add, and you've got your spot rate. But you can go and override this to your rate. So that is possible. So here's your market rate, and here's your rate. Now, if we want to go to, let's say, your product and services, we go to sales and product and services. We go to new or import. You choose your item. You put a name, you choose a category, you put your sales description, your rate, your income account, very important, your standard rated VAT if applicable, and you save and close. If this was a inventory item, it's going to ask you your initial quantity at hand, as on what date, and your reorder point. Then it's going to ask you what's your income account, and since it is an inventory item, you do purchase this item, so the cost, which expense account, and which is your preferred vendor. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. Then, if we go to our chart of accounts, here you can see all your different chart of accounts. By doing this, you can make it inactive. You can choose what to show. If you don't want to see the QuickBooks balance and you don't want to see the currency, you can untoggle it on. Simply add a new one here or import. So new is you're going to be able to say what type it is, what type of account. You're going to choose your account and follow the process here. If you want to merge ones, going to go to bank, and there is a bank charges. Let's see if I find one that I'd like to merge. It'll normally be more under the expenses. So let's say we are going to do equipment rental. So it says there's 2 equipment rentals, right? So what we're going to do, and they actually, I think, are spelled a little bit differently. So I'm going to go and edit this one and copy this. Going to go to this one. Paste the name in and save. Now, because it was not the same account, it didn't let me save it. So you actually do have to work in the same type of account to make that merge happen. So let me maybe add a bank charges for you. want to show you how simple it is. So I'm going to add bank charges. I'm going to call it bank fees. And I'm going to save it. Now I'm going to search for both of them. And I'm going to change my bank fees to bank charges. Now this one is set as a sub account. That's not correct. The editing is very simple and straightforward. You just need to know what is going to be added. So you see they're sitting underneath each other, meaning that this is the parent and this is the sub account, which is incorrect. So let me go and add another one, another bank charges. Call it bank charges and see if that works. Okay, now I've got a bank charges and a bank fees. So let's change this bank charges to bank fees. There we go. Now it says you already have an account with that name. Would you like to merge the two? And all you're going to say is merge accounts. And save. And just like that, you've now only got the bank fees. If I choose to show inactive, you'll see there is your bank charges that has been deleted. So as simple as that, that is your chart of accounts, that is your product and services. Just before we go on to the break, I just want to show you how we get into the training. I have to quickly sign out and sign back in. Okay, so once we go to our training screen, you're going to be able to see your different types of training. So here we've got the introduction to QuickBooks Online for accountants. This is one module, 1 hour long. And then we've got our QuickBooks Online accountant certification. It's 8 modules, 4 hours long. And you can see here it says take the exam. So all you're going to do here are if you pull on that little drop down, you've got your little videos that you can watch and get in progress. So if there's anything you're unsure about, you can just go through here. But when you're ready to take the exam, you're just going to click on take the exam. I just need to reshare my screen because it generally throws the screen out again. So you should be able to see your exam that says my progress, and this is where you're going to go and do each section. So remember, you've got 3 attempts and you need to pass by 80% on each one to fully pass the exam. So this is exactly how you're going to take your exam and progress from there. So we are now going to go into a quick break, and then from there we will actually go ahead and come back for session 2. everyone, and welcome back. I know it was a quick break, but we are trying to get it through as much as possible as we can in these 2.5 hours. So I just wanted to see a show of hands if everyone enjoyed and followed through the first session before we kick into the next. Okay, so we're going to go and get started. I'm just going to share my screen again. Going to go into session 2. So session 2 is really more about your daily transacting and what the software can do. Session 1 was really more about your setup. Okay, so we're going to start with modules obviously 5 to 8. So if you look at this, you're going to see module 5 is your supplier purchase and bill payment. Your module 6 is around your customer sales and receive payments. You've got your module 7, which is around reports, tax, your QuickBooks app, and your recurring transactions. And we're going to end with module 8, which is your online banking. So just remember, if you do have any questions, please do post them in the Q&A because we will be going through a live session just now with the question and answers. Okay, so we're going to start off with adding suppliers. So suppliers can be added either manually, one by one, or you can import them. So if you go to your expenses screen on your left-hand side or your expenses tab, you do have the option to say add a new supplier, or if you click on the drop-down, you can say import suppliers. So this is a manual way of adding your suppliers. So you've got your first name, you've got your last name, you can add a middle name, you've got your company, so that's the company of the supplier, and then your display name. So the display name is very important. If you have a first name and a last name and a different company name, your display name is always going to filter back to your first name. So just make sure that you toggle your display name to show the company name so that the invoices can be correct. Then you've got your address, which has a map feature, or you can simply type your address in. You've got any notes, you can also add attachments in. And just remember that emails that need to go in must be separated with a comma to have multiple email addresses. You can also add phone and mobile numbers. You've got your terms, your opening balance if you're taking on this client from another software, and you've got their tax reference numbers. So very straightforward. Now, if we're going to look at your purchase and bill payments and your expense and supplier credits. So if we look at your expense and supplier workflow, this is when you have 2 different options, right? So this is payment at time of purchase. So this is when it actually happens. So your option 1 is around an expense. So this is where you record purchases with debit or credit cards. And then you have option 2, which is a bank feed or a CSV file. And this codes expenses with bank downloaded transactions. So you do it directly on the bank account. So my preference, I generally always use bank feeds or CSV files because you know that all transactions are in there. You would use an expense, for example, if you are running a petty cash. Then we have your paid bills. So this is your accounts payable. So your step 1 is obviously going to be to enter the bill from, let's say, a purchase order, or you're going to create it from scratch. And then your second step is the actual payment. So you're going to apply the payment that you're making to all open bills with, let's say, a check or EFT or bank transfer, however you may be paying these bills. So just remember to manage your accounts payable. This is a 2-step process that you would follow. So to create a bill, very simple and straightforward, you're going to go to your new button or your create new menu, and you're going to select bill. Now you're going to see there is a few options. So you've got a bill number, you've got your supplier. When you do toggle onto your supplier, it's going to pre-populate all of that supplier's details. You've got your bill date, you've got the due date, you've got your category details. So this is everything that you would add onto it. With a bill, you can also add items. So if you are physically buying stock, this is where you would choose your item and say how much of the item you have physically purchased. On this bill, you can also make a direct payment. If you're paying many or several bills, what you would do is you'd go to pay bills on the create new screen, and you're going to select which bills you're going to pay and the bank account you're going to use and the payment date, and you can also give it a reference. So just remember that you have to make sure that this amount is going to correlate with the bank, but it is a great way to manage what needs to be paid. If we've got look at the create expenses, you're going to go to your create new button again, and under suppliers, you're going to click on expense. And you're simply going to fill out the expense. Who is the payee? From which payment account it's going from. So is it a cash account? Is it a bank account? The payment date, the payment method. You can put a reference number in. Again, you've got your category details and your item details. So if you don't run your items on an accounts payable process, you can simply add them in as an expense because it's not going to affect any age payables, for example. What is nice is you can make these expenses recurring. You can also print them. So it gives you a lot of flexibility. And if there is any extra little features you want to add, you simply go to that gear icon and see what functionalities are available for you. Now, to add a purchase order to a bill or an expense transaction is very straightforward. So you're going to go create a new bill from scratch. And it's going to populate on the right-hand side any purchase orders that have not been actioned. And all you're going to do is say, click on add purchase order to bill, and everything will pre-populate for you. You can go and amend these figures, so nothing's set in stone. Let's say you've changed your mind and you want to order 50 instead of 100, you can do that. You're going to put in your bill date, your due date, your bill number, everything that needs to go in, but it will pre-populate from your purchase order. And again, you're going to say save and close, save and send, so that bill can be created. Now we're going to be looking at adding your customers. So this is module 6, where we're going to look at your customers, your sales, and your received payments. So in customers, you have two options again. You can add a manual customer or you can import your customer. So when you want to import, you're always going to click on that drop down. If you want to import from the beginning, you're going to go to your gear icon and you're going to say import list and you're going to choose your customers. So to add a customer from scratch, it's very straightforward, very similar to a supplier. So you're going to put the first name, last name, whatever information you have. You're going to choose your company and your display name. So again, just make sure that your display name is showing the company name, as this is what's correct. You're going to put your client's tax number in, their billing address. It can also have a different shipping address. You can add any notes in. You can change the language of the invoice. I think there's about 5 different options. You can add any attachments and any payments and billing. Remember that your emails must be separated with a comma. You can also add mobile numbers and websites. And a nice feature, it's not always needed, but you can add your customers as sub-customers to a parent. And you can choose to bill the parent or bill the customer. So this does happen. It can happen in legal firms where people do work for one attorney or whatever, and but that attorney has multiple clients that you are representing. So it is definitely possible to use this feature. Just remember that, as I mentioned earlier, you can merge transactions or merge accounts on customers and suppliers as well. So you're simply going to go and edit the name of the customer to the one that's correct, save it, and it will merge the two. It's going to merge all transaction history as well. So this is a great time to save you time as well. Now we're going to look at estimates and purchase orders. So this is for a sales workflow that happens at the time of sale. So we look at step 1, which is a sales receipt. So you're going to record the sale and payment in a single step. And then you can also look at step 2, which is a deposit. So you're going to group multiple payments to a single bank deposit. So just remember that the best time to use a sales receipt is when a customer pays at the time of the sale. And it is really important to see what features you need to use or which sales accounts you need to use when. If we look at payment on account, so accounts receivable, we've got our, you're going to invoice first. So we've got step 1, which is you create your invoice. So you either create your invoice from scratch or from an estimate or quote. Then we've got step 2, which is to apply the payment to open invoices manually or automatically. And then you got your deposit. That's going to group multiple payments to a single bank deposit. So how you use the payment and the deposit in multiple groups is a check. If you have multiple checks for different clients that paid you, but you only deposit that money once, that is how you would handle the payment and the deposit. We've then got our estimate and purchase order workflow. So just remember that your estimate and your purchase orders are non-posting items. They don't affect anything on transacting in QuickBooks Online, because an estimate is exactly what it says. It is estimating for the work that you're going to get. And a purchase order is estimating for that bill that you're going to receive. A posting item for an estimate is going to be an invoice, obviously. So once you've accepted, or once your clients accepted that estimate, it's going to move forward to an invoice. And once your supplier accepts the purchase order, or you accept the purchase order, you're going to create an expense or bill transaction. So that is your sales workflow, non-posting to posting, and your expense workflow, non-posting to posting. Another type of non-posting transaction is a delayed charge. So that's just you interpreting when you might receive the funds. So creating an estimate, very straightforward. You're going to go to create new again, and you're going to choose estimate. You're going to choose your customer. You're going to choose the estimation date and the expiration date. All details will pre-populate with the customer. You can change your estimate number if need be. That is possible. Then you're going to add your product and services. So this is what you're actually going to invoice. You can adjust the quantity, the rate, the amount will pre-populate, and then you can change the tax, but this should come directly from your product and service. What's nice on the screen is you have the ability to print a preview to see exactly what the invoice or the estimate is going to look like. You can make this quotation or estimate recurring. You can customize it from here. You have the option to save it. You have the option to save and close, save and send, or save and new. So you do have a lot of different options. You can also put messages on these estimates or quotations so that the customer can see. And remember that you can send these directly from the system. So using an estimate to create a purchase order is very straightforward. On your estimate, on that little drop down, underneath create invoice, it's going to say copy to purchase order. And why this is so important is it saves you time. If you're creating an estimate and you know you need to order 5 parts of something, you can go ahead and just create a purchase order with the exact same information and send it through to your supplier. If your client accepts the quotation or the estimate, you then tell your supplier, please proceed and send us the bill. And then you go from your purchase order to your bill. So you are literally creating one document, which is an estimate, over 4 different types of transactions. And that is a powerful purpose of QuickBooks Online and how much it can save you time and money. So converting an estimate to an invoice, extremely straightforward. You're going to find your estimate under your all sales setting. or all sales tab, and you're going to filter onto estimates. You're going to find your estimate, and you should be able to see the status as either open, closed, or pending. On your pending one for this example, you're simply going to click on Create Invoice. On the Create Invoice screen, you're going to see that there is one linked estimate and everything has been pre-populated for you. You are able to edit. So let's say you can CC someone, you can add a tax number in, you can change the invoice number if necessary, you can increase quantities if necessary or decrease. So it's fully customizable. And again, you have that print to preview option, you have the option to make recurring, you have that customize option, and again, you've got that save and send, save and close, or save and new. On your invoices, just remember to always put your banking details. That always shows up on your invoices as well. Now we're going to look at credit notes and customer statements, and we are still in module 6. So the question always comes up is, why do you use a credit note? Why use a credit note instead of just editing the transaction? Many clients do ask that question. And the answer is this can cause confusion and is not great record keeping. If the invoice is, let's say, in a prior period, it's going to change your prior period amounts. And that's the last thing we want as an accountant. The next common question is, why not just reduce the next invoice? So to that, we're going to say it is important to create a new transaction for each exchange between supplier and the customer, and inventory quantities on hand can become out of sync for certain periods if you are reducing the next invoice to, let's say, show a less of quantities purchased. And the other common question is, why not just refund in cash and not record? And we're going to say it is important to capture all transactions, paid in cash or not, to ensure clients' records are complete. Because you don't want a client coming back 3 years later to say, you did not pay me my refund. If you don't have a record of it, there is no proof. So record, record, record. And to create a credit note is very straightforward and simple. You're going to go to New, you're going to go to Credit Note, and you're going to fill in exactly what you're credit noting. So you're going to choose the customer, you're going to choose the credit note date, the credit note number can be changed, and you're going to say what you're credit noting. So if it's hours, you're going to say how many hours. If it's a product, you're going to say how many of that quantity you are reducing to get to your total credit. Now, once you've saved your credit, you're going to manually apply this credit to that invoice. So you're going to go to receive payment on New. You're going to choose your date, so the date of the credit note. And you're going to see there's a credit at the bottom, and then there's outstanding transactions at the top. So the difference between the two will be what is actually outstanding by the client to pay. And now we're going to look at customer statement type. So once you've done all your adjustments, you've processed credit notes, you've done all your invoicing, you're going to send your customer a statement. And we've got 3 different statement options in QuickBooks Online. So we've got a balance forward, we've got an open item, and a transaction statement. So a balance forward is a type of statement that shows a list of invoices and payments with opening balances and ending balances for a specific date range selected. You've got an open item, so this customer statement type shows you a list of all open or unpaid invoices. And then we've got a transactional statement. So this just typically shows a list of transactions between 2 set dates for a specific customer. So in our firm, we tend to use either balance forward or open item. It's just much easier for a client to read and understand. So how would you go about sending your customer statement? So you're going to go to sales, you're going to go to customers, and then what's great is you can send your customer statements in a batch. So you're going to select your customers. So what I normally do is I filter the opening balance to the highest to the lowest. I select all of those customers on the left. Then you're going to go to batch actions and say create statement. What that's going to do is going to populate this page or this screen that says your statement type. So you're going to choose either the balance forward or the open item or the transactional. You're going to choose your statement date. So that would generally be today's date or the date you're sending the statement out. And you're going to put a start date and an end date in there as well. Then it's going to show you for all those customers you've selected, there are 20 statements available, and there'll only be statements available if you've got your client's email in there and if there is no, if there's actually transactional history in it. If there's no email address, it's going to populate in your missing email addresses section. You then have the ability to go and manually type the email address in. So this also is going to show you for all your customers, what is the outstanding amount on these invoices. So it also gives you some idea of what is owing. And from there, you're simply going to say send, and it's going to email your clients each individualized statements to their email addresses. You can choose to CC yourself on these, just so you have a track record of these statements as well. Now we're going to be looking at module 7, where we're going to look at reports, tax, the QuickBooks app, and recurring transactions. But we're going to start with a basic reports. So the benefits of creating reports. Your client needs to have a clear snapshot of how they are doing in their business. And QuickBooks Online provides valuable insights into these by looking at the financial position of a business, the results of operations for a specific time period, statistical information such as, let's say, the best-selling item or gross profit margin, and information about customers, suppliers, and your employees. So the reports functionality on QuickBooks Online is really amazing. To customize it is so easy. To run month-by-month reports are so easy. So you're just giving your clients so much of value, and they really appreciate it, because clients don't always understand what we do in the back end. But if they see a report, it is much easier for them to digest. So if we look at cash and accrual reporting, we've got cash basis reporting and we've got accrual basis reporting. Cash basis reporting displays income when cash is received. It displays income as of the date of a customer payment is received, and displays expenses as of the date a supplier is paid. Cash basis is really suitable for smaller businesses that do not carry inventory. We've got accrual basis, which displays income when it is earned. So it displays income as of the date of the invoice, and it displays expenses as of the date of the bill. So this is used more on complex businesses, but it also provides a comprehensive financial picture. So you might have a user ask you, why are some of my reports not showing? So it could be that their user permissions don't allow for it. So you could edit and review those permissions. Verify that you are on the right subscription to access those features, and check whether the feature is turned on in your account and setting. So you could really just have a glance at these 3 if your client is telling you that they can't see something specific. Now the report center. If you go to reports on your left-hand side, you have a report center and you have a performance center. Your report center is grouped into standard, custom, and management reports. Your standard is grouped further into different categories, but you can also filter for whatever your report you want by find a report by name using the magnifying glass. So our standard reports are all about your favorites. So this is anything that you find that might be necessary. You've got your business overview, you've got who owes you, you've got sales and customers, what you owe, expenses and vendors, and sales tax. If we look at a profit and loss report, this is where you can see exactly what the business is doing for a specific time period. The little arrows that are shown in the red block, this is your sub-accounts that I mentioned earlier. So you can choose to show your sub-accounts as individual figures, and then you've got a total figure, or you can close it and just show the total summarized figure. So again, really great for discussions, reporting purposes, to give your clients that feel that, wow, okay, this thing was really thought of for reporting. If we look at the balance sheet, exactly the same happens. So you've got your drop downs, it's broken up into assets and liabilities. So you can, again, show a summarized amount, or you can show the detailed drop down amount. So we're going to look at the value of reports next. So now we're going to be looking at analyzing your profit and loss report. So if you come onto the profit and loss comparison report, it's already going to guide you on comparing to a specific period. But you can compare or analyze from a basic profit and loss report. You're going to choose your reporting period, for example. So whether it's last month or it's last year or custom dates. You're going to display columns by, let's say, monthly or quarterly. You're going to then compare it to another period. So this could be a previous period, so a previous month. You could show the dollar change or the currency change. You could show the percentage change. You can also compare to a previous year, and you can also do the same. You can do a dollar change. You can do a percentage change. You can also show year-to-date figures, which is great. You can do percentage of the row, percentage of the column, percentage of the income, and you have the ability to reorder columns, which is also really great. You can choose your accounting method, so cash or accrual, and then you can run your report. There are also ways to customize even further. So you'd go to the customize section, customize it to how you want it, save that customization so you can use that same report time after time. And remember, this report can be emailed directly from the system. You can print it, you can export it to Excel or PDF, and there are a few settings that you can also change. So this is a great report to show your clients. Balance sheet is exactly the same. You run it for a year and you can compare it to another period or previous year. Very straightforward. Now we're going to look at your basic sales tax setup. So this is regarding VAT, sales tax, any type of tax that you're going to impose on those invoices of yours. So getting started with sales tax in QuickBooks Online, assessing your sales tax requirements is where you need to start. So you need to ask the question, to which agencies do my clients pay sales tax? What is their filing frequency and where are they located? So those are the common questions that you're going to have to look at. So to set up sales tax is very straightforward. You're going to go to the taxes section and you're going to click on set up tax. So there is a little video. So if you do want to watch that, you are able to. Your agency is going to pre-populate, determined by which country your client sits in. So that's very important. And then you're going to have the start of your tax period. So that is when your tax period starts, and your filing frequency. So if you have a bi-monthly filing frequency and your period is, let's say, even period, you're going to put your start date at, let's say, March, because you'd start in the odd and you'd end in the even. You're going to put your reporting method in, so accrual or cash, and you're going to put your client's tax number in. So that would be their sales tax number or their VAT number. And you're all set. But the next thing you need to do is go customize that invoice of yours and include the VAT settings in there. You also have the option to review your product and services. So this is where you need to go add your VAT or your sales tax to those product and services to make sure that when you are invoicing, nothing is missed or excluded, because then your invoices would be incorrect. So when you have done your sales tax setup, I think it's very wise to go to your product and services and your expense accounts and just activate those tax settings to make your life much easier when processing. Now we're going to be looking at the QuickBooks app. So this is a really great tool that I use quite frequently when I'm not in the office, especially for an accountant. It's very, very user-friendly. So the mobile app, what does it do? Let's start there. So it's free with any paid subscription of QuickBooks Online. So you would get one as an accountant, and you'd be able to access all of your different clients on this one application. You can also access your own books on it. But it is also available for all of your clients. So they would only be able to see their books. It's available on iOS and Android devices, and it instantly updates QuickBooks Online and vice versa. So if you do anything on the app, it's going to update on the browser version. If you do anything on the browser, it's going to update on the app version. And it has the same level of security as the browser version, so you don't need to feel that you're using something that's not secure. So the main features that can actually be used on this app, you do have your dashboard, so exactly the same as the browser version. You've got your dashboard shortcuts, so creating an invoice, snapping a receipt, whatever it may be. You've got some new shortcuts, so you've obviously can go to a profit and loss or an estimate. So you've got shortcuts, and you've got an all transaction list or all menu list. This is where you can see your bank transactions, categories, invoices. You've got a whole lot of list pages. So these are estimates, invoices, etc. And then you've got your forms. So this is where you can actually go and create a new invoice directly from the app. You can send it directly from the app as well. So just remember that the features that it can't do is it cannot reconcile bank accounts, and it cannot file any sales tax. You do need to use the browser version for that. So just remember that you can't do everything in this mobile app. It's meant to be for on-the-go use. If you can't get to your laptop and you quickly need to do an invoice or you quickly need to find a customer, this is what it's used for. Now we're going to look at recurring transactions. So we're now in the last section of our module 7, and it's all about recurring transactions. So QuickBooks is all about trying to make your lives easier and quicker. So you can set up recurring transactions in QuickBooks Online to manage most of the first transactions in any workflow, like sales receipts, invoices, bills, journals, checks, deposits, or even expenses. So a really, really great tool to use. And I'm going to show you how to use it here. So if you go to the gear icon, you're going to go to lists and recurring transactions. And just remember, if you wanted to quickly go and use the recurring transaction, whichever transaction you're on, you have that make recurring button. So that's going to pre-populate everything for you. So if you want to create a recurring transaction from scratch, you're going to choose what type of recurring transaction you want to do. Is it an invoice? Is it an expense? Is it a bill? Is it a journal? So you have the ability to choose. You're going to give the template a name, you're going to schedule it, and you're going to say how many days in advance must it create. This is an expense example. So you're going to choose your payee and the account, so the bank account. You're going to choose your interval. So if it's every monthly thing or bi-monthly thing, you're going to put your start date and your end date. Then you're just simply going to add what is going to be your expense. So in this example, it's utilities, and you've got an amount of 300. You can choose to make this billable. You can add your tax to it, and you can add a customer to it. So a really great tool to use to make things recurring and to make it much quicker for you to do. Journals are one of the easiest things to do because then you can do your depreciation on a monthly basis, and you know that is done. Now we're looking at module 8, which is your online banking. This is probably one of my favorite features in QuickBooks Online. There's just so much to it and so much that can be done. I think I would have a whole session based on online banking. But to get started, we're going to look at setting up bank feeds. Okay, so there's a few ways to access your banking. You either can go to the banking center and toggle to your bank account, or you can go from your dashboard and go to your bank account. So on your banking center, you're going to be able to see all your bank accounts and your bank balance and any transactions that have pulled through. If you want to set up a bank feed, for example, you're going to go to that link account button. If you don't have that functionality, you're going to click on the drop down and it's going to say upload from file. So you do have that flexibility to choose which one you would use. If you want to link the account, you're going to say link account. It's going to ask you which bank you want to link. It's going to show you whether that feed is available. You're going to log in with your internet banking credentials, and you're going to link which account needs to be linked to which bank account in QuickBooks Online. If you've not created a bank account yet, you can go and add this account manually from here with an opening balance. And then it's going to ask you from when do you want to pull these transactions in. So most banks allow you to go 3 months back, but you may have a bank that allows you to go further back. So just remember to pull the transactions in from the last transaction you have or the last balance you have to avoid any duplicates. Manually importing transactions is another option. So you'd go to upload from file on the drop down. You'd then go to manually upload again, and you're going to drag and drop your file that you need. So it's going to be a CSV file, but there is many other options. You can do CSV, you can do QFX, QBO, OFX, or text format. And you're just going to drop it in and map it. So you do have that option here to bring in the transactions automatically as shown in 4, just to find your bank to make it easier. And then, of course, you're going to go to continue. So again, you're going to map it to which account or which bank account you need to link it to and continue. And this is where you're going to map. So this is the first thing it tells you. Is your first row in the file a header? So if that's yes, you put yes. What it means is, do you have headers for your rows? So do you have a date column? Do you have an amount column? Do you have a description column? It's then going to ask you how many columns show amounts. So are there 2 columns that show amounts, or are there only 1 column that shows an amount? So 1 being there's negative and positive figures in there. Then it's going to say, what is the date format used? Do you use a day, month, year, or is it month, day, year? However you may present it. Then it's going to show you your QuickBooks field. So you need a date, description, and amount. And those fields must link to your file fields. So your date can maybe be linked to your transaction date in your actual file, however you may represent this. And then you're going to say continue. And as simple as that, you're going to pull in all of your transactions. So next, we're going to be looking at creating simple bank rules. This is just really to help you, guide you, get you transacting much quicker. So about bank rules. Bank rules automate categorization of transactions on the bank feed, including assignment of the transaction type, category, payee, class, and location. They can also be used to automatically split transactions. So that's very common in accounting. You can also prioritize rules over others. You can copy certain rules, you can edit them, and you can export them. You can even create bank rules to automatically add transactions, and that's really going to help you. So what I normally do is I normally get it to be done for all the bank charges. I do auto add rule, and everything just goes in. But to create a rule is very straightforward and very easy. You're going to go to accounting and rules, or you're going to go to banking. And in your banking section, you will see rules as well. You're going to go to new rule. But on this page, you're going to be able to see all your different rules. You can prioritize them, you can edit them, you can delete them. So on your new rule page, you're going to give this rule a name. You're going to say this is a money out or money in transaction, whether it must affect all bank accounts or only certain bank accounts, and if it must include the following as an all test or an and test, or an if test, sorry. So you can add multiple different conditions. So let's say your description must contain the word fee for bank charges, right? Then you can add another condition. It must be a negative figure. So once you've added all your conditions in, then you're going to assign it to a specific transaction. So your transactions type is going to be an expense. You're going to choose your category. So this category is not really for bank charge, it's more for equipment rental. But if we were to do a bank charge, you would put it to bank charges. You choose a payee if necessary, and you can put a tag in. So what's great with the split feature is the fact that you can actually split the transaction into two different amounts to two different categories. So that's really a cool feature to use. So the best way to automate transactions is to really use your bank rules and your recurring transactions. Now we're going to quickly look at our banking workflow. So we're going to look at matching existing transactions. So how does sales and bank fees work? So your sales receipt, you've got your sales receipt, you've got your invoice payment, and you've got your deposit. So your sales receipt is obviously things that you do in time. Your invoice payment is making payments to invoices at a later date. And you've got your deposit, which is all your checks summed up into one deposit. So this is where you're going to work in your bank account, and you're going to match those transactions to physical invoices or deposits or sales receipts. Matching existing transactions such as expenses and bank fees. You've got your expenses, you've got checks, and you've got bill payments. So all of these can be matched to existing transactions in QuickBooks Online that you've already created. And then your last step is obviously just to add any remaining transactions that don't have matches directly from the bank. So just remember that you've got a few terms that you always use in banking. You've got your match feature, you've got your rules, and you've got uncategorized income and expenses. So those are your common words that you generally find in your banking. Now we've got, let's say this is more automation. So we can look at grouping bank fee transactions. So on your filter on your bank, you can actually filter to recognize transactions, match transactions. And once you filter to what you want and you're able to find everything, you're simply going to tick at the top, the little box next to date. And you're going to select all, and you're just going to say on batch actions to accept. And that's as quick as doing these transactions. So you'll see here, once everything's selected, you have a few options. You've got an accept option, you've got an update option, and you've got an exclude option. So accept means you're happy. Update means you want to change the categorization. So in this example, we've got that A rental again. So it's not an uncategorized expense. It is actually equipment rental. So you're going to go to update, and you're going to go and change it to equipment rental and apply and accept. Your exclude is generally for transactions that are like duplicates. So you need to just delete one of those transactions. There are some settings that need to be activated on your banking screen. And one is to copy the bank detail to the memo and to show bank details. Because what does QuickBooks do is under the description, it kind of reads your bank detail and changes it to what you think it should see. So if you switch on copy bank detail to memo and show bank details, that's going to show you exactly what is on the bank statement. So it makes transacting much easier. Now we're going to quickly look at transfers. So what is a transfer? To summarize a summary of the transfer functionality, the transfer screen is used to move funds between two balance sheet accounts, so two bank accounts. The transfer screen is not used to record income or expenses. There are no customers, suppliers, employees, or product and service items involved. These fields are not available on the transfer field. And you don't use the transfer feature to transfer from your bank account to your supplier's bank account. It is simply bank account to bank account. And we're going to look at reconciling the bank. So reconciling is the process to verify that the transaction from QuickBooks agrees with the bank or credit card statement. With the bank statement, the power of QuickBooks Online and its smart learning, reconciliation can be done quickly and efficiently. So we're going to quickly look at how do you do reconciliations. So again, you're going to go to accounting and reconcile. You're going to choose the account you want to reconcile. You're going to put the ending balance in because it should have a beginning balance at a certain date. And you're going to put your ending date in. From there, you're going to see a whole lot of features. So number one, you've got your bank register and you on reconcile. Number two will show you your statement ending balance and your cleared balance, as well as your beginning balance, any payments and deposits. Number three is where you can filter between your payments, deposits, and all. Number four is further filter. So you can filter just the ending date or filter whatever you may. Number five is going to show you a difference if there is one. If it shows you that exclamation, that means that something's missing or there is something that's been duplicated. If you fully reconciled, it's going to show up as a 0 and it's going to be green. Number six is going to be where you're going to be able to edit the info. So you're going to be able to change, let's say, the ending date or the ending amount. Number seven, you can save for later. If you have a 0 balance, you can finish now. And then obviously 8 is where you're going to tick all the transactions that you actually need to show. So this is how we normally do it is we look at the physical bank statement, we go line for line and we tick and we tick and we tick to try and find where something was either missing or duplicated. So if everything is reconciled and everything is 0, you're going to get a 0 difference and it's going to tell you to finish now. So that is our end of banking and that is the end of the session. I just want to quickly go in maybe for 5 minutes and do a quick demo of everything we've spoke about just to give you some ease of transacting. Because I know when you do obviously watch something and when you practice it, it looks completely different. So let's quickly jump into a demo again and then we're going to go and go in for the question and answers. So I just want to go to my screen again. Bear with me. Then we're going to go to the sample company. Just jumping into the sample. Okay, so we're going to start with adding, or let me start with importing data. So if we go to import data, we've got your different types of data that you can import. So we've got bank data, customers, vendors, chart of accounts, product and services, and invoices. So if we do go into any of these types of data, you can click on it. And it's going to give you a sample file that you can work from to actually go and import this data. Now, if we go to customers, you can go and say new customer and simply add all of your customer details. As simple as that. Then if we go to your invoicing, you can go to new and you can go to estimate. On the estimate screen, you're going to choose your customer. all your details will pre-populate. You've got your estimation date, your expiration date. You can go and add your different product and services with different quantities. And we can save. So once it's saved, you do have that option to copy to purchase order. So everything remains the same. And you'd save and close. Oh, you need to choose a vendor. And save and close. Then once you go to your quotation or your estimate screen, you're going to find that estimate. And it's going to say pending. And you can go and say, convert to invoice. And just like that, your invoice has been created. But let's say now you need to increase this to, let's say 5. That is possible. And you can save and send or save. Here's your recurring, but I'll show you that just now. If you want to do a credit note, also very simple. Go to credit. Choose your customer. You'll add what you are crediting. You save. You'd go to new or receive payment. You choose your customer. Not sure if I chose the incorrect customer now. We've got our outstanding invoice. But normally your credit note would sit here. I think I just chose the wrong customer. After that, if you want to send a statement, you go to customers, choose your customers, batch actions, create statements. You got your different statement options, your date, and save and send. As simple as that. If we go to invoices, you can see your invoices that were created, the latest date, or you can filter by invoice number. You can also go and create a bill. If we go to bill, you will see that for this supplier, there is a purchase order. So all you do is add purchase order and everything pre-populates and you save. Suppliers are exactly the same. You go to expenses and vendors. So we would see suppliers. Then what is the last step is obviously your banking and your recurring transactions. So this is your banking screen. You've got your different bank accounts. This is where you would link your bank transactions or upload. This is where you can batch, edit. You can choose a customer to put it to and you can make it billable. And then you've got your different matching options. So you can filter by recognized transactions or matched transactions. You can filter dates. And this is where you would go to create your rules. So here you would go create a new rule, call it a rule, money out contains the word, let's say fee, and it's an expense, bank charges or bank fees, and everything's fine there. And you have that auto add feature. If we quickly go over to reports, here you can see you can favorite any of your reports. I'm going to show you a typical profit and loss. So here you can say, I'm going to say, show me this year to date. but show me by months and compare it to the previous year with a dollar change or currency change. And just like that, you've got figures for your periods with the previous year. And this is amazing reporting. So just remember that you can customize further. So these are your different customizations. You can put a filter, a header. And there are further things here to edit and your different options to show the report. So you can add a note, you can edit titles, you can show all columns, active columns. So you really can play around with this report and it will give you a lot of flexibility. But there's so many different types of reports for you to access. You've got your custom reports and your management reports. So these are anything that you customize, and these are quick management reports that you can edit as well and quickly send out. So QuickBooks Online has so many features, so many things to do, so many ways to make your life better. I think just before we close, let me show you the recurring transactions. So recurring transactions is very easy. You're going to choose your type of recurring transaction. So I'm just going to say a journal, for example. Going to schedule it, let's say 5 days in advance. It's going to be monthly on the last day of every month. You're going to start it at the end of September. And then you're going to say, you're going to put in depreciation for an amount. And that's going to affect your accumulated. I must find it. If it's not there, we can simply add it. But then your other leg would obviously be your fixed asset. Find it. Not here. But we can add it. But that would basically be how you would process your journal. So it would have a debit and a credit. You would put your description and you would save the template, and it would run every single month. So there's many different options on recurring transactions. I can just show you the different options. So you can see you've got bill, non-posting charge, checks, credit memos, deposits, expenses, invoices, refunds, transfers. So the list is endless. So I just want to say thank you so much for watching. We are now going to go into a short break, and then we're going to head over to our question and answer session. So really thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you back just now for question and answers. everyone. Welcome back. I hope you guys had a good break and ready for our, let's say, Spitfire questions. I do have a lovely guest with us today, Catalina, all the way from Colombia. So she's going to be helping us with the question and answers. So please post all of your questions you have. We've got about half an hour to get through them. So I'm really excited for this. So before we Catalina, you can obviously say hi before we get started, but let's get into it.
Sure, definitely. So thank you, Nadine, for having me here. And hello, everyone. We've got quite a great audience today. It's my morning, I guess your evening, afternoon, etc. But I'd like to start, Nadine, by talking about payroll, because I did see in the Q&A a lot of questions about how we can manage payroll in QBO, right? So I'd like to clarify that we have the option of using the expense accounts that are meant for payroll expenses. So if you guys go to your chart of accounts, you will find some default accounts, and you can also, of course, create your own. And that's something I wanted to clarify. And on the other hand, we have the employee section, right? That is very useful, especially when handling projects. So if anybody has questions specifically about projects and how timesheets can be included, I think it's something interesting to analyze.
Great. I think that's a great answer. I think there has been a question that's come up earlier while I was presenting around importing of credit notes. So as far as I know, you cannot import credit notes in QuickBooks Online itself, but you might be able to use Sascent to pull those in. I do know that they have a lot of different things that can be imported in. But definitely, I understand the need for importing credit notes. But QuickBooks Online doesn't have that functionality. It's got invoices and bills. That's about it. But there should be an add-on where you should be able to go and add those in through that portal. So I think have a look at Sascent, reach out to them as well, because they're always looking to improve their software. So even if they don't have it, it's definitely something that is worthwhile investigating on as well. I don't know, Catalina, if you have any other workarounds for that?
No, I was also thinking about Sascent. It's a great option for things that maybe QBO doesn't have within the templates. So definitely worth exploring that option. And I'm seeing a question here about how we can include VAT and taxes in general in our invoices, right? So I think Nadine mentioned this at some point when you create your taxes locally. So QBO has some default tax rates that maybe work for you, but you always have the option of setting up your own tax rates. So make sure to go to the taxes section and create your own tax. And then you will see it comes up in your invoice as you create it.
Yeah, perfect. I think that's the easiest way to show the tax rates and stuff. But you have to set up your taxes in QBO first before it can, before it is obviously shown on your invoicing.
Yep. Just something real quick here. I see lots of questions about getting the recording for the session. I know, guys, Nadine is awesome. We all want to see her recordings, and you will be receiving the recording in 2 days after today. Okay, you will be receiving via email because we do have your emails. So no worries, you'll be able to see it again and go through the recording in your own time.
I've got a nice question here. So it says, hi, a couple of my clients are already using QuickBooks Online subscriptions. How can I link them with my QuickBooks Online accountant account? So on your client's QuickBooks Online subscription, you would go to the My Accountant tab and you would add yourself in as an accountant. That's going to send you an invite where you're going to accept that invitation. So just remember on all the QuickBooks Online subscriptions, you do get a +1 accountant, which doesn't count on their user count. So by adding yourself as an accountant, you get access to all those accountant features that is not available on their QuickBooks Online account. So definitely go add yourself in on their subscriptions as an accountant.
And now I have another one here that I think is really cool, because we always get these questions about how can we get P&Ls for different projects, right? If we want to have like segmented accounting, as they say. So there is a very interesting option that is called locations, and it is also complemented by another feature called classes. These are both available in the Plus license. And when you do activate your locations and your classes, you will be able to start registering both income and expenses for any of those locations that you have, right? So if you have a store with 2 or 3 or 4 locations, you can create under the same license the accounting for each of those stores. All right. And then in the reporting section, you will be able to filter and actually leave the report as a customized report for each of those locations. So make sure to look for that option when you go to the gear icon in the Plus license to activate your locations and classes for that.
I've got a question here that says, hi, does QBO have payment and receipt voucher auto number sequence generate options? So yes, everything in QuickBooks Online that you would do, transact, whether it be invoices or estimates or whatever, does have an auto number sequence generator. So you can start it at something. So let's say if you're starting from scratch, then you'd start 1001. Or if you're coming from another platform, you may be using another number sequence. But once you put in that number sequence once, it will start auto-generating to your next numbers. So you don't need to go and constantly change those numbers. And it also is going to avoid duplicates in that way as well.
I see someone asking about multi-currency, and it's Juan. So Juan, when you do have multi-currency activated in your account, you will see all reports in your home currency. So it's important for you to really determine at the beginning when you're setting up your company and before you activate multi-currency, which is going to be your home currency, because that's the one you're going to have in the reports. If you want some kind of report with your other currencies, I would think you can export the lists of, for example, clients that you've billed in the other currency or expenses that you've had in the other currency. But the reports per se, the financial reports, will be in your home currency. I hope that helps.
Perfect. Okay, I just want to find a nice question here. Something that we don't see all the time. Let's see. Okay, so a question here says, how do we charge bank charges for overdue accounts? I think they could be maybe referring to interest on late accounts or any fees you want to charge on overdue accounts. What you're going to do is you're going to go and process a journal on QuickBooks Online, and you're going to link that type of charge to your specific customer so that it shows up on the customer statement. Unfortunately, there's no way to auto add it, let's say after a specific time period. You would have to manage that on your own, but there is definitely a way to add on that extra interest or any charges you may need to charge through a journal and link it directly to the customer. Kathleen, I'm not sure if you maybe handle this in any other way.
No, I think that's great. I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah. So Nadine, about exchange rates, because we have so many people from so many different countries, and QBO gives us this option. We also have a question about the exchange rate if we need to put them in manually every day. So the answer is no. QBO is actually set to generate those exchange rates, not every day, but all the time, right? Like it's updated just like every minute or second, I don't know. But what you can do if you have the need to do so is you can change the exchange rate and you will be impacting that transaction. So no, it will not change everything else. For example, if you're changing the exchange rate for an invoice, it will impact the payment that it has, but it will not change the other transactions.
And I think what's important to understand with multi-currency and how it works on the back end is the reason for the different exchange rates at the different times is because let's say I go and process an invoice today, and the exchange rate is X amount. Then when the client pays in, let's say, a month's time, that exchange rate is different and it has to be different. Um, and with that change in exchange rate, you either have a gain or loss on that currency. And those gains and losses show up in your income statement. And it's actually an item you have to report on. So that is the reason why they are always why you have to have different exchange rates for different times, because when you invoice and when the money is received, that difference is where you get a gain or loss on your currency.
Right. I've also seen, Nadine, maybe if you want to comment on this, I've also seen that some people create journal entries to record their exchange gain or loss. How do you handle that? Like when it's not exactly what you want, what you were thinking, or the date that it's not working right, you can create a journal entry to adjust it. Or what are your thoughts on that? Because I've seen lots of people do it.
Yes, so I think journals are always there as accountants. We always use them to try and fix things. But yes, we can definitely do journal entries to get that amount that you actually need it to be. Because sometimes the bank may take a service fee and the amount that's
Mhm.
coming in is not exactly what it should be. So then we maybe need to do a manual payment. And then when the money comes in on the bank, then you adjust for it there. But yes, journal entries are used over everything. I mean, we adjust
Yeah,
for everything. That's what they're there for. So you definitely can use it as long as you have your chart of accounts set up, and you know your
exactly.
debits and credits. Then it's pretty straightforward.
Correct. Great. So someone was asking if we have different clients, can we use QBO to manage several clients at the same time? So yes, we have two platforms now, right? So we have QBO, which is your QuickBooks Online account per company. And we have QBO-A, which is our platform as accounting professionals to handle different clients. So that's where you have to go, QBO-A, and create your own account to start exploring and managing different clients at the same time.
Exactly. And I think with QBOA, you do have all those different features that's not available on the actual global QuickBooks Online account. Like the accountant tools is like one of my favorite features. And you just have more things that's just more accessible to you. I do see a question here that says they want to know whether journals can be used for accounts payable or receivable transactions. Because other products won't allow. So you can run your accounts receivables and payables through a journal. But if you're going to create invoices and bills, those will automatically create those accounts payables and receivables. So if you are, let's say, taking on opening balances, then yes, I would suggest doing those as a journal to bring in those first balances. So you're going to bring it in for every single client, obviously. But going forward on a normal transactional, a day-to-day thing, creating invoices and bills and then receiving those payments and making those payments is the more correct way to manage your accounts payable and receivables.
So Sassy is asking about setting up numerical codes to the chart of accounts. So if you imported our chart of accounts that has no codes, that's fine, because some countries use them, some countries don't, and you have the option of activating that afterwards. So if you go to the setup, you will find where you can just include the numbers and the codes.
Yes, so it's very nice because some people like it, some people don't.
Yeah.
And if you want to use it, I think it can be useful when you start remembering those codes off by heart and you're not searching for names. But yes, you don't have to add it in at the beginning. You can choose to add it in later on. So it gives you that flexibility.
Yeah. And regarding customization of financial reports, yes, it is 100% possible. In the report center, you're going to see that when you create any report, say P&L or balance sheet are always there, but you have so many different reports. And maybe you say, I want to see negative numbers in red or in inside the parentheses, or just any way you want to look at them, in terms of content and in terms of how they look, right? The design. You can go to the customize gear icon and then see all the different options that you have. And when you do customize a financial report, I think it's a good idea always to save the customization, because if it's something you're going to be looking for every month, well, why not just leave it there as a favorite, and that way you don't have to filter all the time.
And I think with customization, there's so much available, and on every report, it's different. So really play around with it and see what you can do. And then we have a client here, or a guest that says, how many clients in total can I have? Do you have a limit? And I'm happy to say that there is no limit. So go ahead and add all of your clients on. I'm pretty sure QuickBooks will be very happy, and you're going to be extremely happy because you're going to see how much time it's going to save you. So that's one. And then secondly, we've got a question around the tax payments in the tax section. So this is not a question we get very often. So I think it's good that we look at it. So it says, when I record the last month's tax payment in the tax section, why is it not affecting with the tax liability as it remains the same? So I think where this is coming from, and maybe we can get a follow-up if I didn't answer it correctly, but when you're using the tax section, you have to go work on your current period. Then you need to go and say file. So it doesn't physically file with your governing agency or your government agency. It files in the back end on QuickBooks. So it knows to close that period. So it's going to ask you, when do you want to file? And it's going to put the amounts and everything in place. Then you need to process the payment. Now, again, this payment is not processing anywhere, it's just for reporting purposes. So you need to tell it, when is the payment going to be processed. Once that payment has been processed, you will match it in the bank as a VAT or a tax payment. And only once that is done will you be able to move or roll forward to the next period. The payment is not it's not necessary, because you can have tax that's outstanding, or it could be a refund. But what's important is to actually file that payment to make sure, file the return, sorry, to make sure that it moves to the next reporting period, because then you're not gonna, if you don't file it, you're not gonna be able to move forward, and your figures are not gonna show in your tax section. Katrina, I just hope I answered that correctly. You can just let me know if I missed anything there.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Okay.
I have someone asking here about linking the bank statement with QuickBooks. So it is 100% possible. The only thing is the how, right? Because QuickBooks Online does have the automation option, but not every bank in the world is up for it yet, right? So what you need to do is go to the banking section, try to connect your bank, and look for your bank in the menu of the banks available. If your bank is there, you simply make the connection. It's very easy to connect using your username and password. But if your bank is not one of those options, what you do is you import. Using the import tool, you can import your bank statements. You don't have to do it one by one of the transactions. You can import the full bank statement. So I would suggest you go in and see which of those options would be the best for you.
And I think sometimes I actually prefer using CSV files, because then you know you're downloading it directly from the bank, nothing's duplicated, and you're going to put it in. And then you know 100% you're going to reconcile. Sometimes with the bank feed, because it's not 100% correct yet, you might get a transaction that gets excluded or something that gets duplicated. So yes, it's very, very user-friendly and very convenient. But using the CSV import or any of the other import functions is more accurate, I think, in my eyes, because you're taking it and you're putting it in yourself.
Yeah.
So
I think
it saves you time.
Definitely, but I think it's worth taking a couple minutes
Yes.
to comment on the bank feeds, because I think tips like be very mindful when you are connecting your bank, for example, with the start date, right? Some people simply go in and connect their bank, and what they needed was, for example, last month and then onward, right? But some people just connect and they don't see that they've asked for January 1st. So everything comes in as a duplicate, which is what you were mentioning, right? So maybe tips like that would be useful. For example, the rules. We also had a question about the bank rules. And I think bank rules are awesome. QuickBooks actually suggests rules that you can use when it sees a lot of repeating expenses, for example. But I think we should use the rules if we're very sure of what we're asking, right? How do you work around those rules?
So what we've noticed is, because QuickBooks does suggest it so easily, we've seen that a lot of clients just go in and say accept,
Say yes,
right? And a lot of them are on auto add. And then we go in and we like, okay, where did all these transactions come from? So I think it's wise to go in maybe once a month and just check what rules are there and delete what's not necessary or fix. Because for a rule to work, it has to be quite rigid. It has to have all its stuff met.
All the conditions, right?
Yes, exactly. All the conditions met. So maybe you don't give those clients, tell them don't do it. But what's also important is what we do is every month, if a client is transacting, we go in and we do that reclassify just to see that everything has been allocated correctly. And that's only a feature that you're going to get in the accountant version as well, which is that reclassifying of transactions. So it's very good to not just trust those bank rules, but to really look at what it's doing in the back end.
Definitely. See, I knew we should take a couple minutes to get your tips on that one. Yeah, very important. Great.
I have one here which can actually happen very often, even though we hope it doesn't. It talks about merging accounts. So merging accounts, as we know, is not reversible. But what happens if it is done and it's obviously incorrect? So what do? So what I would say is you'd go and pull, let's say, the chart of account for that actual chart of account, right? The report for it. And you're going to see if what's been allocated incorrectly. You can do that, or you can actually go to reclassify. And in the reclassify, you're going to choose that chart of account, and whatever's been put there incorrectly, you can go and move out to another account. So that's a good way to fix it. There is no undoing what has been done. It will be a little bit of manual work involved, but it is possible to move those items or transactions out of that the merged account. Let's see.
We have Lachelle asking about how we can use this in a doctor's clinic. So you want to issue medical prescriptions and keep the record of patients in every checkup. That's an interesting question, because I find that QBO is so good at adapting and being flexible for all of our different businesses. And I find that it's very common to need like a separate document to support the QBO, right? So QBO is mainly an accounting software, and it does have some really cool features, like you can add attachments to each of your invoices, And you can attach like a supporting document, right? However, something like keeping the record of your patient with every checkup, I think it's a matter of how you want to process and keep your admin work besides the accounting, right? And I think it's a complement. Like QBO is a complement to your, for example, checkup spreadsheet or platform. You can use the attachment if you want to add something, or the note section for each of your customers. But I do think in terms of like keeping record of every checkup, if it's going to be very long or have many checkups, maybe it's better to keep it separately. Great. But again, that's just a way of understanding how QuickBooks actually works for each business.
Yes. I've got a question here. How do we add clients that have their own subscriptions? We're an accounting firm. Can we swap them over to direct billing if that suits us? So yes, if you add a client onto your portal, they would obviously come in with their billing, but you can change it to the wholesale billing, obviously, if you want to use that option. So you are available or able to change to either one. So let's say the client is no longer with you and you need to move their billing back over to them, that is possible as well. So you do have that flexibility to really choose your billing with how you want it. Let's see if there's any other questions.
So how do you create multiple companies is one question. And then there's another one. Can we create several customers at one time? So I guess that's pretty similar. If you are in your QBOA account, if you already have your platform and you have the client section, when you go to add customer, you will see there's different ways of bringing in your list of customers, right? Now, I do want to mention that when you have existing customers on QuickBooks Online, they can invite you as their accountant with your email. So that will immediately show in your QBOA. Okay. And if you have clients that you want to invite and bring on, it's a different process, but you will see it there in the different options when you add a client.
And we've got a question here on how many financial years data is available on QuickBooks. If you are transacting for 20 years, you will have 20 years of data. So what's great is that from day one that you transact up until whatever day you are on, you'll be able to find those reports and find those figures. So nothing's going to get lost. And I think that's the power of the cloud, and why so many of us have moved over to the cloud, because of that safety to know that everything is always there and you don't have to have backups upon backups to report on every year. You're going to be able to have everything at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm. So the certification exam will be available until when? It's going to be there always. You can, when you have your QBOA account and you go to the training section, you're going to find all the videos for the certification, and you are going to find the exam, which you can take in your own time. It's just always there, and it's for free.
Yeah, so I think what's nice about it as well is it's completely self-paced. So you're not time limited. If you want to do a question today or a section today and another one in 2 weeks' time, it is all up to you. But what's nice is your progress is saved. Once you pass, your certification will be there. It's going to show who's been certified. And it's a much easier platform to access your training on because it's in your actual accountant version. And it's so easy to use. It's all multiple choice questions. And there are those videos that you can go watch if anything is unclear to you.
With regards to the mobile app, you can actually look for the app in your app store. So there's no link to download it. You can look for it in either iOS or Android app stores.
They just must remember that we have to have an active subscription. So obviously, if you're an accountant, you get it. But with your clients, they would only be able to sign in with their QuickBooks Online account. So they would have to have an active subscription to use that. But you can definitely play around in an accountant, because you can add in your books there, and go ahead and report and check out the app from there and play around with it. I think that's what's so great about having the free account for the accountant version, is the fact that you can play around and put your books on there and see what it has to offer. So when you try to convince your clients to sign up, you've already tried and tested it, because I think the client always believes an accountant more when they've actually used the software. So if you say, well, I run my book and my practice on the accountant version, it gives your client a little bit more comfort knowing that it's not a strange thing that you're putting them on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And with regards to setting up your QBOA, I see another question. Please go to the chat, because our community management actually shared the link. If you haven't signed up for QBOA yet, that's the link you can follow and set it up for your firm.
And then we've got another question that says, how can I import a prior year trial balance into QuickBooks? So that's a very good question. We don't get that very often. But what you would do is you'd go and load your journal entries in. So you'd go and import the journal with those dates in place. So if you want to load in, let's say we're now in the 2023 tax year, you want to load in 2022, just going to go and import that journals for the previous year. I think that might be the easiest way. You can then do it for each prior year as well. But I think that would be the easiest way to do it, Kathleen. I'm not sure if there's another workaround around that.
No, I think that's what they have to do. And then regarding import, real quick, regarding import from previous years, I think it's important to go in and see all the different templates that we have, because one thing is importing something like really bulky and large, and the other is importing the lists, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's not very clear as to how we can import or what we can import, right? So we can import invoices and bills, but also other kinds of lists. So if you go to the import tool, you will see the different options that we have.
And there's a question here that says, if I failed the exam 3 times, what will happen? So you're going to have to wait 30 days before you can go ahead and take the exam again. I'm not sure if it's 30 or 60, but you will have to wait before you can access the exam again. So I think just before you publish on your answers, just go double check them, because there are a few tricky ones. But the answers should be there in your videos. So just have a look and see. And we have to get 80% obviously in all of the sections. So take your time, there's no rush. But if it does happen, you are going to have to wait before it unlocks again for you to take the exam.
I think we have time for a couple more questions, right, Nadine?
Yes, I think we've got 3 more minutes of questions. Okay. And I think before we get into it, I just want to say that with joining QuickBooks Online the accountant community, you get so much of access to support. I mean, through the Facebook community, you've got these webinars where there's always these Spitfire questions. You've got amazing support at your fingertips as well. So really utilize all of them. It's really a community of accountants that have joined together, almost like a community member accountancy portal to answer all those questions that you might not know, but someone else can. So I think it's really great to join those Facebook groups, attend more of these sessions, just so you feel more comfortable.
Yeah, that Facebook group is amazing. It lots of people ask questions, and just like getting answers from peers is very, very helpful. What do you think of closing, Nadine, with this question about products that this person imports, and they want to know how QuickBooks can show the cost and the invoice for the product, right? So it says, I have invoice costs for my product and I have a landed cost for the same product. Does QBO have a feature that will let me see both the invoice and the landed cost? I think you should go and refer to how you can create your inventory and your products in your QBO, because there is a way when you create each product of saying, if you are actually buying this from someone, you can register the cost. And that way, when you do create your invoices, you are going to see the impact on both the balance sheet and the P&L with your inventory, right? And it is important to keep in mind that QBO actually uses first in, first out method for calculating your cost of goods sold. So being mindful of that, you can try it out and see how it comes up in your reports.
And I think another thing that,
if you have a suggestion.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I think another thing just to mention is the fact that we have that billable button. So if you are paying for something, always click on that billable thing, especially if you need to add it onto a client's invoice, and then choose the specific client. So you know that when you're going to create that invoice, those costs will show up and you're not going to miss anything. Because when you're invoicing on a whole lot of transactions, it's very easy to miss a payment, and then you're missing expenses that you're paying for out of pocket. Especially if you do want to charge things separately and you want to show them line by line. I think that billable feature would really work.
Yep, definitely. Definitely.
Okay, I think that is us for questions. It was a really, really insightful session. Thank you so much again for joining. To our attendees and Catalina, thank you. I always need your help with these. I really hope everyone enjoyed. I think we will be having another one of these in another month. So look out for the email. And then you guys can come in for question and answers again. I really hope you enjoyed. I know it was a quick session. I know my fellow accountants in South Africa are struggling with load shedding at the moment. So hopefully that recording is going to help. But if you did miss it, there's another one coming up. So have a look. I think it's also good to bring your clients in so they get some free training as well. So yeah, have a look out. Idea. And thank you again so much for being here and watching. And it was really fun to present to you guys.
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day or evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That you got me, yeah, you got my heart. Come to me and slow for me towards me, yeah. I'm following you, take me up into the sky. Take me up into the sky, the sky. That you got me, yeah, you got my heart. Come to me and slow for me towards me, yeah. I'm following you, take me up into the sky.